Reputable sources are telling Utah insiders that their future move to the Big Ten is a done deal. I have a thought or two. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, of course, and you can hit that free subscribe button down below while you're watching so you don't miss a single episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So, Utah to the Big Ten now? Expansion, realignment, we're doing that? Oh, and Dan Lanning, he ratted out Nico, right? I think it's good. I'll tell you why. Plus, Michigan shopping in the portal, maybe for a quarterback? We'll explain. Plus, our power rankings, all that coming up right here. You know, we like to talk Big Ten expansion and Big Ten realignment as much as any podcast out there. Love the topic. So when we saw a couple of stories about Utah realigning to an expanded Big Ten, our eyes and ears perked up a little bit. And of course, we spend a lot of time both on the podcast and away from the podcast, always poring over serious details about schools like Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and Notre Dame coming to the Big Ten someday, especially when the ACC implodes in the future over its horrible TV deal. You everydayers know all about that. That possibility still exists, by the way. It's just been delayed a little bit for 4 or 5 years with the recent court settlements between the ACC and Florida State and Clemson, because the schools thought that their brand power, their name power, should allow them to get a larger slice of the ACC TV money pie. But Utah? We don't talk about Utah to the Big Ten much here. That's interesting. So I operate on decades of experience, and where I see smoke, there's usually fire. I like to look into it. Naturally, when I saw some Utah message boards lighten up this weekend and talk of inside sources inside the Utah administration above the athletic department and statements that said a move to the Big Ten was a done deal, it got my attention. So I'm looking into it. And here's what I found so far, and here's what I think. By the way, this podcast gives you news, opinion, and analysis, all of that. I do think Utah to the Big Ten, I asked myself, is that a priority right now for the Big Ten? No, not for the Big Ten's perspective. Could it happen when the ACC crumbles and then there's their carryover to the Big 12? Yes. So for those of you that are new to Locked On Big Ten, here's our master thumbnail theory. It goes like this. The ACC eventually falls apart because their TV media deal is still horrible. The Big Ten and the SEC pick up the pieces, pick up the teams that they want. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, Georgia Tech, Virginia. I think there's even a bidding war between the two conferences for North Carolina. We've explained that in detail in the past. We can go into that in the future, but we won't do it here. And we've always believed that the Big Ten and the SEC will grow their super conference arrangement similar to the NFL's AFC and NFC, and ultimately they'll be so big and they'll have their own championship. Now, Big 12 teams will see this happening before their very eyes. They'll get nervous, and some of them will start bolting. Well, they're going to get out of the Big 12. You got to pick a side. You can be Big 10 or you can be SEC. And so the upper echelon teams of the Big 12, they'll realize they gotta go or be left out. It's adapt or die time. But the ACC will fall apart first. That'll start all this down the road. Now, like we said, a few Big 12 teams will jump over to the Big 10 or the SEC, and the ACC and the Big 12 will go away. That's all down the road. Now, that's when and where Utah to the Big Ten may come to be. But this won't be for 4 or 5 years until the next round of TV contracts are up. These Utah message boards, They claim that Utah hasn't been real happy in the Big 12, and they've been quietly clearing hurdles required for Big Ten admission. We can talk about facilities, academics, certification, compliance, these kind of things. Who knows? But one interesting fact is that, the Big Ten prefers its universities to be AAU members. That's the Association of American Universities. It's an academic credential. And Utah is a tier 1 research facility or university. And it just became an AAU member like a few years ago. So check that box. In that way, the Big Ten ready right now. And look, Utah is an attractive school for anybody. The football program is stable. Kyle Whittingham has been there for over 2 decades since he took over for Urban Meyer. The basketball team had a rough transition to the Big 12, but they made it to the semifinals of the NIT. That's something. It's not great. Something to build on, I suppose. But if Utah were to leave for the Big Ten, they haven't even unpacked their boxes from arriving in the Big 12, and there would be exit fees to consider here. For example, Texas and Oklahoma, they just a couple years ago paid a combined $100 million to leave the Big 12 to go to the SEC. So how much would Utah be willing to spend to get out? Look, the Big 12 just signed a $2 billion media deal with ESPN and Fox. And it comes out about $50 million of revenue per year per school. Pretty good. It's okay, right? Better than what the ACC's got. Not quite as good as the SEC and Big 10. The Big 12 deal, though, runs through 2030-31. But the Big 10 deal is up a year earlier. So the Big 12 deal is up in 2030-31. The Big 10 is up the year before. And the schools by then are going to be approaching $100 million a year in revenue, twice what the Big 12 is getting. So any cost from jumping from the Big 12 to the Big 10 would quickly pay for itself. So let's go back to the original source of this smoke today, okay? Unnamed insiders with unnamed sources at Utah don't provide much to stand on here. There's nothing to see here, folks. Not today, anyway, as we sit here in 2025. But Utah realigning to the Big Ten could make sense in 5 years. And chit chat and talk will probably happen a year before that. So really 4 years away. And then I think it's a very real possibility. But not today. All the stuff that's out there this weekend, that it's a done deal, that's going to happen in a few months. Rest assured, it is not. It is not going to happen that soon. Utah fans, particularly if you're new to Locked On Big Ten, I would like to hear from you in the comments section. Love to hear from you with the comments and YouTube. Go ahead and hit us up. And also, if you're new, be sure to hit that free subscribe button, and you'll never miss a single episode every single day. And don't forget, early morning commuters, if you're out there driving in the dark, driving to work in the morning, we have our audio-only podcast that actually come out 2 hours earlier than this video podcast on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. So go check that out if that better suits you and how you consume media. So we'll be here on YouTube every day as well. And don't forget, we have a website. It's called talkbig10.com. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there chronologically. We group them by school or chronologically. And also we have links to buy your favorite school merchandise, shirts, t-shirts, hats, all right there, all under one umbrella at talkbig10.com. So feel free to check that out as well. In the meantime, we got some other things we got to talk about here today. So let's get busy with all this. First of all, Dan Lanning. There's a lot of people think that he snitched out Nico at Tennessee. And I'm going to tell you, I think that's good for the coaching community. I'll tell you why in just a minute. Plus, Michigan says it's shopping in the portal. For what? Maybe a quarterback. I'm going to tell you why. I know you said they're all set at quarterback with Bryce Underwood. Yeah, they are, but they got another situation developing we got to talk about there. Plus, our power rankings. We check in. It's an update of our spring college football updates, power rankings in the Big Ten. So we got a lot to do. All that coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. NBA playoffs. All right. We are underway. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get into the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. You'll love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether you're picking your favorite team or jumping into the player props. That's always fun. You can do stats, three-pointers, steals, assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. So check that out as well. Plus, after the game tips off, in-game live betting, you can even parlay that with your actual pregame bets, all that kind of stuff. You can do just about anything. And your chances to win big are right there before your very eyes, on your fingertips, right on your device. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's at FanDuel.com. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And check out our website, talkbig10.com. All right, so was Oregon football coach Dan Lanning the one that told Tennessee coach Josh Heupel that his starting quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, or his family was calling around other schools looking for a raise for his name, image, and likeness money? It's quite possible. In fact, it's probable. In fact, many people believe it to be true. There are many reports that Nico or his reps reached out to Oregon. Oregon was one of the first schools they allegedly reached out to see if they'd be interested in his football services for a price, of course. The whole story was he was making about $2.2 million at Tennessee. He told them he wanted $4 million. And now the word on the street is he's looking for more than $4 million. A lot of schools aren't that interested. In fact, I will tell you this. There were a handful of schools going into the week that people thought may have been interested, whether it was Tulane, UCLA, Bill Belichick at North Carolina. And here in the last day, North Carolina said no thanks. Tulane said no thanks. I have a source that told me that UCLA offered him, and he turned them down. This is the only place you're hearing that. How about that? He turned down UCLA. Where's he going? He's running out of places. I originally heard USC was not interested, but maybe they are. I don't know. Everybody's turning their back on him for this stunt that he pulled. Most schools are anyway. ESPN's Pete Thamel reported that Nico reached out to the Ducks before spring practice started, and the Volunteers knew about it. So apparently Lanning and the Ducks, they feel that they're good at quarterback with Dante Moore. They don't want to mess with Nico. Dante Moore transferred in from UCLA a year ago, studied under Dylan Gabriel. It's his turn to shine. This is it. Austin Novosad has been there for a year as well. However, the Ducks do have a history of landing quarterbacks in the portal. In addition to Dante, Dylan Gabriel, transfer portal. Bo Nix, transfer portal. Transfer portal guys coming in and turning into Heisman finalists. It's been working out. Gabriel and Nix were both Heisman finalists. And Nico was a Heisman Heisman hopeful, I should say, not a finalist, not even close. But he was a hopeful at the beginning of the year, and it really didn't work out for him statistically, although Tennessee did get to the playoffs. So I don't know what the market is for him. It doesn't seem like there is much. But the fact that we then learned that he threatened to hold out of the playoff game against Ohio State, which we talked about on yesterday's podcast, check it out on Locked On Big Ten. People like Dan Lanning can't trust a guy like that, right? You can't trust a guy like that in big moments on the field and off the field. What's he going to do? Going to hold out now? You suppose he puts up some stats. Going to hold out for more money next year? Dan Lanning's got championships to win. You don't have time to mess with this. So Oregon wasn't interested. And apparently they let Tennessee know about, hey, what your quarterback was doing. So, by the way, Dan Lanning's not afraid of the transfer portal, by the way, which is open now. Opens today through the 26th, and has got a great track record, spending their money in the right places. Quarterback aside, this year they brought in a big offensive lineman, Isaiah World. What a great name for a big offensive. 6'8", 312 pounds. He's coming in from Nevada. Can't wait to see him play. And I think the steal of the winter in the Big Ten, Purdue safety Dylan Thieneman coming over to Oregon. Great pickups, both of them. So Dan Lanning knows what he's doing. Finally, I'll say this. I don't know what kind of relationship Dan Lanning has with Josh Heupel at Tennessee, but if Lanning did call him and give him a heads up about his quarterback snooping around for more money elsewhere, I think he did the coaching fraternity a solid, to be honest with you. These coaches are all competing against each other. I get it. Everybody's trying to get this kid to flip over here, and they're doing it to each other all the time. It's a dirty business. But I'm sure he would want to know at the same time if this were happening to him from another coach and colleague. So that's probably how he felt. It's probably, if he did go out and call Tennessee, that's probably why he did it. But anyway, keep an eye on the spring transfer portal. Again, it opens up today officially and remains open until the 25th. Then it's closed. We'll get a rosters put together, and we're ready to go for fall football. So stand by for all that. Speaking of the transfer portal, Michigan is they're going to be buyers. They're looking to bring in people. Let's talk about them for a moment. They got their spring game on Saturday. The game's not going to air on Saturday. Remember, Michigan decided that they don't want anybody watching their players for the possibility of poaching them in the transfer portal. Don't want them watching on live TV on the Big Ten Network. So the spring game is Saturday. It will not air on the Big Ten Network until next week after the portal closes on the 25th. Now, word is that Michigan is going to be looking to enhance their lineup, their roster a little bit. They're still looking for receivers, always looking for big receivers, maybe some offensive line help, some special teamers. They're also going to be looking for an interesting veteran quarterback. Why? All right. We all know the story about Bryce Underwood. Number one recruit in America is coming in. Look, he's going to be the starter. He's going to be the starter. He may have some ups and downs as a true freshman. He may be great. He may be both. Okay. They also know that they brought in Fresno State, Mikey Keene. Great move. Veteran quarterback. He can help with the transition. He can step in and maybe even start a game or two if he has to while Bryce Underwood learns the ropes, or come in and help, or be some injury depth on the chart. So he's a just-in-case quarterback. He's been hurt, folks. It's an undisclosed injury. Michigan won't say. He missed all of spring. So now word is Michigan's like, he might not be ready. This has Jack Tuttle vibes, if you remember that. He was just never ready. They never really said what the injury was, and then he wasn't ready for the start of the season. It's got Jack Tuttle vibes. So they need to go out and get another quarterback. They do have Jaden Davis. A lot of promise. Young guy. They were able to preserve his red shirt last year with all that nonsense going on at quarterback. Maybe he can shine a little bit. There's Davis Warren, who injured his ACL against Alabama. He's not ready. Michigan needs another body, a quarterback that can produce. And here's the other thing that's going to be tough about that. I mean, good luck getting a quarterback to come in the transfer portal with all the writing on the wall. It says Underwood's going to be the guy. So if I'm a quarterback out there and I'm of any value at all, well, I'm going to go to Michigan just to tutor and sit behind Bryce Underwood. This is going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them to find just the right guy for that situation. I want to give congratulations to USC baseball player Aubrey Covarrubias. He was named the Big Ten Baseball Player of the Week, and the Trojans put together a 3-1 week last week. They won their fifth straight game, and that included taking 2 out of 3 from Penn State this weekend. In 4 starts, the sophomore second baseman led the Trojans with 8 hits, 8 RBIs, 5 runs, 15 total bases, 4 extra base hits, and 3 stolen bases. For the week, he batted .500, OPS of 1.494. Also has a 7-game hitting streak. And his batting average climbed to .339. That's the highest on the team. Trojans currently sit at 4th place in the Big Ten standings. So congratulations to him. All right. We always do a feature at the end of our podcast Mondays. If you're new to us, Mondays, we always do my top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Tuesdays, we have Tuesday tweets. Follow us on Twitter at Talk Big Ten. I'll pull a tweet from you and put it on every Tuesday. We did it yesterday. Lots of fun. Wednesdays, we like to power rank stuff. Get back to that in a minute since this is Wednesday. Thursdays, we look ahead to the Big Ten Network and we highlight their weekend programming. We pick and choose things we think you'd be interested in, like Big Ten Classics, Big Ten Live Action. And on a Friday going into the weekend, we always make picks of whatever's going on, the biggest games. Maybe we look at futures odds. We always come up with something. So it's always fun. So it's middle of the week. It's Wednesday. We're going to power rank. We did this a few weeks ago when spring football was starting. We power ranked the entire Big Ten football standings as we see them. We're doing an update now. Now that we're through the spring, we're going to go back to that and tweak it a little bit and update it just a little bit. That's all coming up in 1 minute. Our power rankings of Big Ten football as we see it here in the spring, the middle of spring football. That's next here on Locked On Big Ten. Time now for our power rankings here on Locked On Big Ten. We'll get them on screen. If you are audio only, no problem. You won't feel left out. We'll give you all the details of what's on, but we'll put them on here and take a look at them together. And here's the first 10 power rankings throughout the Big Ten, a updated 2025 Big Ten spring football rankings. All right, we're going to go with Ohio State at number 1. Look, they got all kinds of momentum. They are the defending national champions. So they had their spring game on Saturday. And after all these reports and all this talk that Julian Sayin wasn't quite up to speed, Lincoln Kienholz was going to be the guy. Julian Sayin played pretty well in the spring game. So they got their momentum. They're looking good. Everybody's excited. Everybody's whispering CJ Stroud kind of things. I mean, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. But things are rolling for Ohio State. They got their championship rings. We showed you pictures of those yesterday on Tuesday tweets. You can open them up, and it's like the stadium inside of the stadium. They're huge, stadium-sized rings. And, of course, they got out of the spring practice healthy with Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. They're ready to turn the corner now and get ready for summer and get ready for this season and the season opener against Texas. So Ryan Day is good to go. Ohio State, our number 1 team. At number 2, we're going to put the Penn State Nittany Lions right now. Drew Aller, still there. I mean, the most experienced. Listen, there's a lot of teams that don't have experienced quarterbacks coming back. Penn State doesn't have to worry about it. This is what Penn State does. They bring in a guy and he starts for 3 or 4 years every year. This is what James Franklin has done. They did make some upgrades at wide receiver. I want to see how those play out. I'm very anxious to see how those work out. That's the number 1 thing. But they're number 2 team. I'm expecting them to get back to the playoffs this year. Oregon, same thing. New quarterback we just talked about. Got a lot of new talent working in, but there's no reason whatsoever to suspect a drop-off for Dan Lanning in Oregon. They went undefeated in the regular season, won the Big Ten championship in their first year. They're going to try and make it 2 years in a row. We'll see. Oregon. Then I don't expect much drop off here. Michigan. I've got them at number 4 because I keep telling you, I think they're going to be better than people expect. I'm expecting big things out of Bryce Underwood. They got to get the backup quarterback situation straightened out right away. Need another lineman, need another wide receiver. I think the defense is going to be good. I do. I'm going to put Indiana at number 5. Indiana 5, Illinois 6. This is a razor thin margin. I could have tied both of these at 5. Kurt Signetti, of course, he's got quarterback Fernando Mendoza. The 11-win season last year. Their schedule is favorable again for another run. And Illinois at number 6 with Brett Bielema, a 10-win season. Another team with a returning quarterback and Luke Altmaier. That is a big asset. And their schedule also is favorable. And I will make note right here, as we look ahead to the season, Indiana and Illinois, they play each other in September at Indiana Bloomington, September 20th. This is 2 teams gunning for double-digit wins. These are 2 teams that I think can be battling for that 4th and let's call it final Big Ten playoff spot of the 12-team playoff field. That game in September between those 2 is going to be huge. It's going to be bigger than people realize as we're sitting here right here in April. But by the time that comes around, it's going to be mammoth. I got Matt Rule's Nebraska Cornhuskers sitting at number 7. Going into year 2 with Della Raiola, I wish we could see more. Everything's top secret over there. No spring game, just some scrimmages. How's the defense going to be? I hear some question marks about the Nebraska defense, but Raiola, big steps from year 1 to year 2. I'm excited for the Huskers. Lincoln Riley, USC, number 8. What do we expect? Jade Maeva at quarterback. Remember, he replaced Miller Moss in, it was November last year, right? I mean, Miller Moss was given the job all year, but was excited. Didn't quite live up. Jade Maeva comes in, did pretty well. How will he do when he's the guy? That's the question. Certainly, I think USC is a top 25 team this year. So, but how much higher? We'll see. Number 9, got the Iowa Hawkeyes. They got a lot of talent that they're replacing on defense. They brought in South Dakota State quarterback Mark Gronowski. I'm excited to see him play and see how he does with Kirk Ferentz. You know, they've struggled at quarterback, but they've been strong in other positions. So I got them at number 9 right now. And I got Washington with Jed Fish's camp at number 10. Massive revamp last year, and yet still a 7-6 record. I mean, I replaced 20 of 22 starters. Jamal Williams was one of 2 quarterbacks they use. He's going to be the guy this year. I remember saying on this very podcast, like in November, what are we going back and forth? Jamal Williams is your quarterback of the future. Play him all the time. That's going to be the case this year. All right, let's see what else we got. That's our top 10 as we see it in our power rankings of the Big Ten spring football. Number 11, I got Rutgers. And, you know, you got Calvin Unguy's gone. I was a big fan of his at running back. Antoine Raymond and C.J. Campbell will gun for that job. Ethan Kaliak-Mattis is coming back. Okay, he's going to count Rutgers among one of the few teams in the Big Ten that have an experienced quarterback coming back, and a lot of 3-star recruits every year. They're just working hard, recruiting, practicing. I got a lot of respect for Greg Schiano and Rutgers. I could probably rank them higher than 11th. Minnesota, Max Brosmer is called. How are they going to look at quarterback this year? Darius Taylor coming back at running back one more year. Expect a lot of him. A lot of him. Got Minnesota at number 12 with PJ Fleck. 13, Michigan State. Jonathan Smith. I don't know what to do with him yet. Haven't figured out where they are. Well, where they are is year 2 under his regime. Watch Aiden Childs from the get-go. I thought he was a promising, talented quarterback. Too many turnovers. How is he in year 2? Does he make a big step forward? If so, Michigan State could be on the rise. Wisconsin. Luke Fickell in 2 years is 13-13. It's very disappointing. I saw a lot of articles this week about hot seat Wisconsin. No, not the case. Because, look, Wisconsin's got the worst schedule in the Big Ten this year, the hardest. It is brutal. They are not likely to have a winning record this year. That doesn't mean they're worse. They could be a better football team, and they may not have a winning record because of the schedule. And I think administrators who like Luke Fickell knew that. They gave him a contract extension this year, kind of quietly did that. So they're not going to get rid of him, because otherwise, you know, new coach, year 3, no improvement. What do? You usually make a change. They don't want to do that yet. And they got a new offensive coordinator, and they got Billy Edwards at quarterback coming in. They haven't gotten quarterback right. That's been a big problem. At 15, I got Maryland. Mike Loxley, a very disappointed 4-8 season. They've got UCLA transfer Justin Martin and true freshman Malik Washington battling out at quarterback. We'll see how that plays out as well. Number 16, UCLA. I told you they made a run at Nico Iamaleava, and he turned them down. Again, this is the only place you're hearing that. I got a good source. Northwestern at number 17, they got a quarterback from SMU, Preston Stone. Their offense was woeful last year, just 18 points per game. They got to get that better. But I will say this, Northwestern has the prettiest view from the stadium right there, their makeshift stadium on Lake Michigan. One more season of that before their new stadium is done. And then we got Purdue at 18. I don't hear or see any momentum in Purdue. Barry Odom takes over the job, takes over a team that won 1 game last year and only 1 starter coming back. Maybe that's a good thing. But like Washington a year before, complete rebuild. on the roster. We'll see how quickly, how long it takes for them to get things rolling at West Lafayette. So there we have it, an update on our spring football 2025 Big Ten Power Rankings. Let me know what you think. Did we get it right? Did we leave anybody off? Too high, too low? Let me know. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. Many ways for you to interact with this podcast at Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. Don't forget our website, talkbig10.com, the number 10. All of our podcasts go there. You can go check out yesterday's podcast. It was more on Nico and Tennessee and how it affects the Big Ten. Also, we've got links so you can buy your favorite Big Ten school merchandise there as well. Be sure to subscribe for free. Click that button, set it and forget it, and that's it. And you'll never miss an episode of Locked On Big Ten. And don't forget our early morning commuters, our audio-only podcasts out 2 hours earlier on Apple or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can check that out as well. So we got an audio version and this video version, of course. And while you're at it, go back and check out yesterday's podcasts if you missed it for a second listen. And for another second listen, check out our Locked On NFL Draft friends at Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez, as our favorite Big Ten players are about ready to get drafted into the NFL. That's coming up next week. They'll be on top of it. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. That'll do it for us. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell your friends about us. Remember, the only place, one podcast, all Big Ten, all 18 teams, news, analysis, and opinion. Get it all under one umbrella right here on Locked On Big Ten. Talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. I'm Craig Sheeman.